July 2025, Clayton Howard drops a bombshell lawsuit, suing not just Diddy, but Cassie too. He claims she wasn't a victim, she was running the operation. Demanding $35 million, Howard alleges he was trafficked for nearly a decade, with Cassie orchestrating encounters. Now new evidence surfaces revealing her alleged role, and it changes everything. July 2025. A bombshell filing lands in federal court that turns the entire Diddy scandal on its head. Clayton Howard sues not just the hip-hop mogul, but Cassie Ventura too, the woman the world saw as a victim. Howard says she was running the show. $20 million. That's what he's demanding initially. But a few months later, that number jumps to $35 million. This isn't just about money. This is about a man who says he was trafficked, exploited, and silenced for nearly a decade, finally speaking his truth in front of Judge Aran Subramanian.
They have this guy looking like a monster right now. He's an abuser, he's drugging people, which really wasn't fair to him, honestly, from a legal standpoint, because they totally decimated his public image, making everyone think he did these things, and none of it came out during the trial.
So who exactly is Clayton Howard? Before the lawsuits, before the Netflix documentary, he was a professional escort. Hired through an agency around 2009, he entered what he thought would be just another arrangement. Instead, he found himself pulled into a world that would haunt him for years. December 2nd, 2025, Netflix drops Sean Combs, The Reckoning, a documentary executive produced by 50 Cent. And there, sitting in front of the camera with his face fully revealed, is Clayton Howard. No shadows, no disguises, just raw testimony about what he claims happened behind closed doors. Initially, Howard was subpoenaed for Diddy's May 2025 trial. Court documents identified him only as Dave. The government wanted him as a witness, someone who could corroborate their narrative about the so-called freakoffs. But Howard never testified. Instead, he chose a different path, filing his own lawsuit. Because what he had to say didn't fit neatly into the prosecution's story, especially not when it came to Cassie.
My grandmother calls me, and she said, "Boy, don't lie to me. I was watching this damn TV, and they keep talking about Clayton Howard. There ain't that many Clayton Howards in the world. Are you involved in this trial?" So I had to tell my grandmother the truth. I said, "Yeah." She said, "What happened?" So I'm telling her.
The allegations in Howard's complaint read like something out of a nightmare. Sex trafficking, human trafficking, sexual assault. He describes a decade-long operation built on drugging and coercion, physical exploitation, and emotional trauma that's left permanent scars. But what makes this lawsuit different is how it reframes everything. Howard isn't just going after Diddy. He's naming Cassie as an equal participant, someone who he claims orchestrated encounters and controlled the operation alongside the mogul.
Well, first when I walked in, I kind of walked in and Jackie was behind the door. So when she came from behind the door, the first thing I noticed, I was like, oh my God, this woman is beautiful. I actually thought she might have been a transvestite. She was just like so perfect. I said, "There's no way."
The story starts in 2009 at the London Hotel in New York City. Howard arrives at room 5001, a massive penthouse suite. A woman who introduces herself as Jackie answers the door. There's also a masked man present calling himself Frank Black.
We talked. She offered me a joint. I smoked the joint just to get rid of the nervousness. She offered me a drink. I think she poured me like some Ciroc and Coke. We shot the for a little bit, just basically got comfortable. All of this might have taken 30 minutes.
It wouldn't be until later that Howard realized who these people really were. Jackie was Cassie Ventura. Frank Black was Sean Combs. And what started that day would continue, according to Howard, for over 5 years.
No, she told me it was Frank Black. Her husband, Frank.
Frank Black?
Yes. Her husband, Frank.
Frank Black or just Frank?
Just Frank. I didn't find out Frank Black, and I didn't find out the last name until I started checking into rooms under Frank Black.
The freakoff details are explicit and disturbing. Howard claims he was trafficked for commercial sex, described in court documents as entertainment to satisfy sexual fetishes and personal ambitions. The encounters became routine, structured, ongoing.
Actually longer. I might have been there for a day and a half, maybe.
Day and a half?
Yeah.
How many times do you guys have?
Couple of times. Usually these things were like, this was called a session, and well, during an encounter, we would have several sessions that had stages.
Cassie wasn't just present, according to Howard. She was the one setting everything up. arranging the paid meetings, coordinating threesomes. The first session alone netted Howard around $9,000 in cash. Often, Howard says Diddy would watch him with other people, orchestrated encounters designed to fulfill specific desires.
No. Actually, the first day, they didn't ask me anything about any semen, anything about any condom. They didn't ask for the condom to take with them. They just went upstairs, talked. Everything was pretty regular except the fact that I had like these multiple encounters with her for a day and a half. There was no weird stuff the first time.
Then came what Howard calls the competition. Cassie told him she had 2 guys she was seeing on the side. Diddy wanted to narrow it down to 1. The solution: bring both men together and let them compete.
We met inside of a Diddy freakoff, which is a chapter in my book, where the 2 of us had a, you know what, we'll just say it for what it is. We had a G with Cassie.
Daniel Phillip, the other man involved, later shared his perspective. He thought he was already Cassie's established side partner when she asked if someone else could join.
Yo, that's funny though, because he describes it that way, Art. But to me, I was there before him, and they asked me if it would be okay for them to bring somebody else.
For Howard, the phone call from Cassie was exciting at first. She was beautiful, intelligent, and every time her number appeared, he saw dollar signs. But what she proposed left him stunned.
All right, so I get a phone call from Cassie this day, like, hey, what's up? And you know, like, she's beautiful, she's intelligent. I have been sleeping with her for years at this point. And truthfully, considering the way the situation worked, every time I used to see her number come on the phone, it was like cha-ching.
The reality hit both men hard. Being in a room with another man while competing for a woman's attention created a psychological minefield neither was prepared for.
Like, first off, it's weird as to already have another man in the room while you having sex with a woman, but
for Howard, seeing Daniel with Cassie shattered something inside him. He'd developed feelings, convinced himself this was more than just a transaction.
You know what the worst experience, the realization, it wasn't even the worst experience. I want to say the eye-opening experience. That's a better thing to say, is when I walked into the room and he was in front of her with his in her face. I was heartbroken, yo.
The sessions could last for days. Both men recall being exhausted while Cassie and Diddy, allegedly high on ecstasy and Molly, kept pushing for more.
This chick should be in jail, Art. She's a pathological, manipulative liar. And considering I'm the person who came out with the lawsuit against her, I don't really care what the public thinks. She lied through her teeth. She manipulated him. She manipulated me. She manipulated the Punisher.
Howard's lawsuit alleges he was manipulated into taking ecstasy during these encounters. Once under the influence, he claims, he engaged in unprotected sex and lost control over his ability to consent. The physical torture claims are graphic. Howard alleges Cassie ordered him to masturbate for hours on end, resulting in tears, skin peeling, and scabbing to his penis. But it gets worse. Howard claims Cassie knowingly gave him a sexually transmitted disease, continuing to have unprotected sex with him after her infection. Then comes the pregnancy bombshell. In court documents, Howard claims Cassie became pregnant by him, not Diddy. She had an abortion, he says, without ever telling him.
Because you actually are part of interstate prostitution.
Yes.
Whereas Punisher was not. He was always local.
Yes.
Howard also describes being forced into sex while Cassie was menstruating, against his will. And through it all, he claims he witnessed something else: domestic violence. He says he saw Diddy physically assaulting Cassie, positioning himself as a first-hand witness to the very violence Cassie herself later testified about. So why did he stay for nearly a decade? Howard's answer is simple: fear. Diddy's deep connections in the industry meant easy retaliation. Plus, Howard admits, he needed the cash. Survival mode became the default setting.
I think after when I left the first time, she gave me around $6,000, but I told her she had to pay me again. So she ended up paying me maybe another $3,000. So I think the first encounter altogether, I might have got $9,000.
The damages Howard is seeking total $35 million. That breaks down into compensation for physical injury, psychological injury, lost wages and benefits, medical expenses, pain and suffering, and emotional distress. Now, Cassie isn't going quietly. After initially being impossible to serve, a judge finally authorized alternative service. Shortly after, attorney Melody Hahn of Wigdor LLP filed a notice of appearance, the same firm that represented her in her original lawsuit against Diddy.
All right, man. I'm Clayton Howard. I am the gentleman who had the courage to sue Cassie for being part of the conspiracy that Diddy recently beat.
Howard isn't backing down. In fact, he's doubling down. He's actively pursuing a law degree while representing himself in court. I have some skill in presenting these points correctly, and in a manner the court will deem appropriate, he told Judge Subramanian. He's also accusing federal prosecutors of trying to silence him. Howard claims Assistant U.S. Attorney Maureen Comey, daughter of former FBI Director James Comey, dismissed his attempts to testify about Cassie's alleged involvement. She stated, "I was too traumatized to testify," a claim I firmly disputed. Howard wrote in court filings,
"When I heard her lie about that overdose, when I heard her lie about the unprotected sex, and there was one more thing she lied about I can't recall off the top of my head, and I know this specifically because she was talking about me."
According to Howard, he made repeated attempts to involve federal authorities, in-person visits to the U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan, letters, emails, all met with what he calls dismissive responses. "The government utilized my cooperation when it aligned with their objectives," Howard wrote. "Yet now it feels as if I am invisible." Howard needed victim status to apply for the Backpage Remission Program, a federal fund distributing $200 million to trafficking victims. Without that designation, he was locked out, so he kept pushing, studying law while fighting for recognition. Judge Subramanian granted Howard the right to file a 17-page supplemental brief, a move that signals the court recognizes both the complexity of his claims and his growing legal competence. It's a stunning evolution. From escort to plaintiff to budding attorney, the court recently unsealed several docket entries after Howard withdrew his motion to keep the case sealed. That means the public now has access to the complaint, the affidavits, the declarations. Everything Howard alleges is out there for anyone to read. So where does this go from here? Diddy is currently serving 50 months in federal prison after being convicted on 2 counts of transporting individuals for prostitution. He was acquitted on sex trafficking and racketeering charges, but the damage to his reputation is permanent. Cassie settled with Diddy for $20 million. Back in November 2023, the case is closed. But this new lawsuit, it's just getting started, and it's forcing a reckoning with a narrative the world thought it understood. Because if Howard's claims hold up in court, if evidence supports his version of events, it changes everything. It means the story wasn't as simple as victim and abuser. It means power dynamics were more complex, more twisted, and involved more people than anyone wanted to admit. With Howard's allegations now public, the story everyone thought they knew about Diddy, Cassie, and the decades of abuse was no longer simple. It was a tangled web, and the next chapter was just beginning. The narrative around Cassie Ventura has always been clear-cut: victim, survivor, hero witness. For over a decade, she endured a relationship with Diddy that ended in a lawsuit, a $20 million settlement, and her testimony putting him behind bars. But now, that story is being challenged from an unexpected source. A man who says he was there, a man who claims Cassie wasn't just caught in Diddy's web, she was helping him spin it. Clayton Howard is changing the conversation. In interviews, court filings, and now a Netflix documentary, the former escort who went by Dave during Diddy's trial is painting a completely different picture of Cassie's role. According to Howard, she wasn't just a victim. She was an active participant, a recruiter, a manipulator who used Diddy's power to get what she wanted while leaving men like him traumatized.
All right, I go by my regular name now, which is Clayton Howard, and I am a victim of count 3. And unfortunately, Diddy has gone to prison for trafficking me, so I'm a victim of the Diddy trafficking scheme. I'm one of the former male escorts.
Howard's central claim is explosive. For nearly 10 years, from 2009 to 2019, he says Cassie wasn't being forced into these encounters. She was ting them, arranging the meetings, coaching the sessions, running the operation alongside Diddy, not beneath him.
So, before we even go too far, we just got to tell you the truth. Diddy's not in jail for trafficking. He's in jail for he's in prison for domestic violence. His 50 months is not for trafficking me.
July 5th, 2025. Howard sat down with TMZ and didn't hold back. He talked about a different side to Cassie, one that embraced Diddy's power and used it to manipulate sexual encounters with male escorts. He said she leveraged Diddy's influence to control him, to get what she wanted, and that she was anything but innocent.
I cooperated with the prosecution for 18 months, providing truthful and detailed accounts of my experiences with Mr. Combs and Ms. Ventura. I submitted evidence including airline receipts, boarding passes, and hotel information.
Howard describes how the operation worked. Cassie would make the calls through an escort service, using aliases to maintain secrecy. It was professional, deliberate, calculated. She wasn't a passive figure in the room. She was the one recruiting multiple male escorts, not just him. It was systematic, organized, intentional. Then there's the manipulation Howard describes. He claims they would lie to him about how long he'd be staying, tell him 24 hours, then keep him for days by taking his phone and clothes. No freedom, no way out. And through it all, Cassie was right there, participating willingly.
Considering the fact that I was there for days, they would lie to me and tell me I was coming for 24 hours, and they would basically keep me by keeping my phone and my clothes for days, not allowing me to leave. And then finding out that she slept with all of these men.
In August 2025, Howard appeared on Vlad TV, detailing even more about his experiences. He said Cassie's actions were driven by personal gain, not genuine victimhood. That she wasn't some innocent caught in a bad situation. She had motives, she had agency, she made choices.
This would have never worked if Cassie wasn't complicit. Cassie had to be in the mood to do this. And a lot of people don't talk about this. And, not to jump all over the place, but this is out there is for the male escorts who do see me and watch that were involved in this.
But here's where it gets messy. November 2023. Cassie sued Diddy. The lawsuit detailed years of abuse, trafficking, and trauma. Within 24 hours, they settled for $20 million. From Howard's perspective, that wasn't about justice, it was about cashing out.
But I don't think that was Cassie's whole thinking, because I seen Cassie before this whole situation happened, because I was living in Vegas. And Cassie, I seen her in the Mayweather Club. I forgot what Mayweather Club called, but it's a club out there in Vegas.
Howard goes further. He accuses his original attorney, Tyrone Blackburn, of deliberately stalling his lawsuit to protect Cassie during the criminal trial. Why? To preserve her credibility as the government's star witness. He claims federal prosecutors were trying to silence him, keeping him quiet to avoid complications that could undermine her testimony.
The male victims of this enterprise were denied justice. Those victims were not the true victims of this enterprise were denied justice, Those victims were not Cassandra and Jane Doe.
Even more explosive, Howard alleges former Assistant U.S. Attorney Maureen Comey, daughter of former FBI Director James Comey, reportedly became annoyed when Howard expressed his desire to reveal what he calls the truth. According to Howard, she dismissed his claim that he qualified as a victim, stating he was too traumatized to testify. Even a pro bono lawyer, Howard alleges, was involved in these efforts to suppress his story. The Netflix docuseries Sean Combs' The Reckoning brought Howard's story to millions. Viewers watched him detail his side, his trauma, his version of events. And suddenly, the public perception began to shift. Some started questioning, some started believing him. The narrative was no longer simple. Online, the debate became fierce. Social media erupted with arguments on both sides. Some believed Howard's account, pointing to inconsistencies in Cassie's story and the speed of her settlement. Others defended Cassie fiercely, viewing her as a domestic violence survivor who made choices under coercive control.
I think the problem with society nowadays is that women can kind of use domestic violence as a get-out-of-jail-free card. All they got to do is claim a dude beat them or did something to them, and it don't matter if she set 30 people on fire.
The MeToo implications are unavoidable. If Howard's claims have merit, what does that mean for how we understand victimhood? What does it say about assuming innocence based solely on gender? What happens when the lines between victim and participant blur? Yet many still view Cassie as a survivor. They point to the documented domestic violence, the surveillance footage of Diddy assaulting her, the years of control and trauma. They argue that survival sometimes means making impossible choices, that participation under duress isn't the same as consent, that Howard's experience doesn't negate hers.
She's in fear for her safety, and she had to move her family out of New York.
Cassie, baby, forgive me, but you full of shit. You ain't scared. You got $30 million. You done destroyed this man's reputation. You know you good.
Howard filed his lawsuit in December 2025, seeking $20 million and naming both Cassie and Diddy. The allegations include humiliation, STD transmission, and even claims Cassie became pregnant with his child and terminated the pregnancy without his knowledge. Judge Ann Huang ruled Cassie had avoided service after multiple attempts to reach her at homes in New York and Connecticut failed. The court authorized alternative service methods. December 11th, attorney Melody Han of Wigdor LLP officially appeared as Cassie's counsel, the same firm that previously represented her against Diddy.
I think the whole Diddy prosecution was a huge stain on the American judicial system. They totally tried to overcharge this guy and manipulate allegations of domestic violence to create a new way to charge rich men with trafficking women.
But there's another voice in this conversation. Rapper GL Chop, who himself faced trafficking charges he claims were manufactured, appeared in an interview offering a perspective that's complicated the narrative even further.
What am I sorry really for? Being myself, being a rich playboy with the money. I was kind of hard. That I get when there's.
Chop's argument centers on something unexpected. He doesn't claim Cassie is guilty of what Howard alleges. Instead, he points the finger at someone else entirely, her current husband. According to Chop, the lawsuit, the testimony, the entire legal crusade against Diddy wasn't driven by Cassie herself.
When she sent her letter in, she said, I can't even get no sleep at night.
Her husband made her do that. We all know that. No offense. And you know, I love every race. Nothing about City is racist. I got mixed kids, you hear me? So nothing about me racist.
He claims she was manipulated, pressured, used as a tool, that after taking the $20 million settlement, someone convinced her to participate in the criminal case, knowing it would destroy Diddy completely. Chop insists Cassie is a good person who was with him, unized by outside forces with their own agendas.
But it wasn't her, I'm gonna keep saying that. It was him.
I won't argue
It was him.
It's a theory that adds yet another layer to an already tangled situation. If Howard is right, Cassie was a co-conspirator who orchestrated abuse. If Chop is right, she's still a victim, just of different manipulators. If her defenders are right, she's a survivor making impossible choices under coercive control. Three completely different interpretations of the same woman's actions over the same decade. What makes this situation so complex is that multiple things can be true simultaneously. Cassie could have been abused by Diddy while also making choices Howard experienced as harmful. Power dynamics in abusive relationships don't follow simple scripts. Victims sometimes participate in systems that hurt others, not out of malice but survival. Yet Howard insists his perspective matters too, that male victims of this alleged enterprise deserve recognition and justice, that focusing solely on Diddy while ignoring Cassie's alleged role denies the full truth. As the lawsuit progresses, more details will emerge. Discovery could reveal text messages, financial records, witness testimony that either validates or destroys Howard's claims. But it also risks re-traumatizing genuine survivors while platforming potentially false accusations. The truth is, we may never have a clean answer. Legal proceedings don't always reveal complete truth. They reveal what can be proven, what juries believe, what settlements silence. And in cases like this, where power dynamics are tangled, where trauma is real on multiple sides, where money and fame distort everything, the full picture stays blurred. With allegations mounting and the co-conspirator theory in the spotlight, the next challenge was legal, and Cassie's absence was about to make it even messier. November 7th, 2025. Clayton Howard filed documents with federal court making an explosive claim. Cassie was hiding, concealing her whereabouts, intentionally evading service of his lawsuit.
Cassie just received the worst possible news she could have ever gotten. And this is coming days after Diddy was acquitted on charges accusing him of trafficking her. This new development could bankrupt Cassie.
Howard told the judge Cassie had proven impossible to serve. It's a legal requirement. You can't proceed without formal notification, due process. But according to Howard's attorneys, Cassie was using her substantial resources to intentionally evade service and prevent the action from proceeding.
Cassie was who booked them, and Cassie was who paid them. One escort in particular, Clayton Howard, he took it beyond Cassie just booking him. See, Clayton has a great deal of resentment for Cassie.
Howard hired a professional process server to locate Cassie. Multiple attempts, all unsuccessful. They couldn't find her. He also hired a private investigator using extensive resources, searching everywhere. Coming up empty, no location, complete ghost. Howard even reached out to Douglas Wigdor, Cassie's attorney, who represented her in the 2023 lawsuit against Diddy, the same lawyer who issued statements on her behalf. No response.
Because it don't look great for your case as a prosecutor to say that Diddy trafficked Cassie when this man is saying that Cassie was just as bad as Diddy in his dealings with Diddy and Cassie. So he was never called to testify.
December 8th, 2025. U.S. District Judge Ann Huang reviewed the situation. 9 documented service attempts at 3 different addresses in New York and Connecticut. After months of failed efforts, the judge authorized alternative service, emailing known attorneys, digital notification, a legal workaround when someone's hiding, service by publication. The court was allowing the case to proceed anyway, and there was something Cassie needed to understand. If she continued being non-responsive, there was a potential consequence, a $20 million default judgment, without trial, automatic loss, major stakes.
Back in 2024, when the feds were investigating Diddy for racketeering, trafficking, among other charges, they had a conversation with Cassie. Cassie was cooperative, and the feds asked Cassie to give them a list of names of the male escorts that her and Diddy had freak-offs with.
December 13th, 2025. Cassie finally hired an attorney. Melody Hahn of Wigdor LLP filed a notice of appearance, preparing to defend. No longer hiding, facing the lawsuit, taking it seriously. Legal team assembled. The battle was beginning.
My attorney intentionally held the filing back to protect the credibility of Cassie. Tyrone Blackburn, he intentionally held it back. I have numerous communications to him where I am directly informing him to file.
What her attorney faced was daunting. STD transmission claims, abortion allegations, trafficking accusations, co-conspirator theory, witness testimony, documentary evidence, an uphill battle. Meanwhile, Howard was representing himself, a pro se litigant who told Judge Subramanian he was actively pursuing a law degree. He said he had some skill in presenting points correctly. The judge allowed him to file a 17-page supplemental reply brief, granting permission for evidence of wrongdoing. Howard was improving his legal abilities with each filing.
Here's where Cassie may be in trouble. So the law allowed human trafficking victims with a right to sue those responsible for their trafficking. However, even if the courts find that Cassie,
The evidence coming was extensive. Emails between parties, text messages, financial records, travel documentation, medical records, witness statements, a massive discovery battle ahead.
They all testify that Cassie was who booked them and Cassie was who paid them. One escort in particular, Clayton Howard, he took it beyond Cassie just booking him.
No trial date had been set. This was still early stages, motion practice, discovery phase, depositions coming, evidence exchange. This could potentially take years. The complications were stacking up. Diddy in prison, Cassie hiding, then lawyering up. Howard representing himself. Multiple jurisdictions, federal implications, media attention everywhere, messy litigation.
He accused Cassie of trafficking him for commercial purposes, luring him with promises of gifts and favors, transporting him across state lines for prolonged encounters.
Cassie's response strategy so far: not responding to the substance of allegations, letting her lawyer handle it, staying quiet, strategic silence. But the reputational stakes couldn't be higher. Cassie's image, a complete reversal. From victim to villain in the public eye. Public perception shifting. Career implications, personal brand, everything at risk.
So Ventura allegedly drugged Howard Clayton with controlled substances, including MDMA, at triple the doses she consumed to lower his inhibitions and facilitate sexual exploitation.
The financial exposure was staggering. $35 million demanded, medical expenses, mental health treatment, prescription costs, healthcare expenses, lost wages, massive liability if she lost.
That if I'm like an escort and I'm dealing with Cassie and Diddy, the least of my worries is I could catch something. These people are extremely wealthy at the top echelon of society. I don't think they would be carrying STDs around, but apparently I was wrong.
Clayton had called Diddy's partial conviction a slap in the face to the MeToo movement. When Diddy was acquitted on serious charges, convicted only on partial justice, not what survivors had hoped for. And now the movement was facing an uncomfortable debate. Can perpetrators also be victims? Coercive relationships, survival mechanisms, complex dynamics, gray areas, uncomfortable questions that don't have easy answers.
Her action resulted, now this is where it gets a little messy, okay? Now he's claiming that he got her pregnant. And he's claiming that she aborted the pregnancy without informing him.
The legal framework Howard was using made it even more dangerous. The Trafficking Victims Protection Reauthorization Act, the TVPRA, a law designed to go after anyone who knowingly benefits from trafficking. It didn't matter if you were the main perpetrator. If you benefited, you were liable.
Diddy was found not guilty in criminal court of trafficking Cassie. The court listed Cassie as an equal participator in this. And if Cassie was the one who was paying these dues, she was the one who executed the transaction.
And Cassie had benefited. $30 million from Diddy, $10 million from the Intercontinental Hotel. Settlements, public sympathy, a rebirth of her career narrative. Howard's legal team was building a case that painted Cassie not as a passive victim, but as an active participant who recruited, organized, and directed, who booked the escorts, who made the payments, who set the terms.
That Cassandra Ventura, your idol, did this to herself. She exposed herself to liability when she got on the stand and decided to mention me as the male escort who was with her when she overdosed and Diddy made her have sex with him.
What's next? Deposition scheduled, evidence being exchanged, motions filed, discovery fights. Settlement talks maybe, trial preparation, years of litigation stretching ahead. The ultimate question hanging over everything. Was Cassie a victim, a co-conspirator, or both? Can someone be abused and abuser at the same time? It's complicated truth, and the courts will decide. This case is forcing everyone to confront uncomfortable realities. Power dynamics aren't always simple. Abuse isn't always one-directional. And sometimes the person we thought we understood becomes someone we never knew at all. Cassie went from America's sweetheart survivor to someone accused of the very things that were allegedly done to her. The evidence, the testimony, the depositions, they'll all paint a picture. Whether that picture matches what Howard claims or what Cassie's team argues, we'll have to wait and see. But one thing's certain, the legal system is about to put every detail under a microscope. And when it does, the truth, whatever it is, won't stay hidden anymore.